So now we are on in part two of my interview with Joan Bishop, who's a family mediator, and you had quite a bit of a background, business and also with fostering. You've been on a fostering panel.
That's right,
Yeah,
yes.
and now you're a family mediator, and just in case I didn't mention it, I'm Soila, not to you, but to the people who are listening. I'm Soila, I'm the founder and editor of the divorcemagazine.co.uk. Joan, in the last interview, the part one interview, you had just started talking about the part where family couples come to you, and right in the beginning of mediation, that's when you start the process of actually saying goodbye to what they knew, and then they can start this new chapter, because that's what divorce is. It is a new chapter. And you were talking about the questions that you use in this process.
Okay, now people watching this might find this a useful exercise to do for themselves.
Yeah.
But the interesting fact when I'm working with people is that I give them a choice as to whether they'll answer the questions, because mediation is voluntary, so participating in is voluntary as well. But I explain the questions first so that they can hear them. And obviously, as I'm saying these questions in their heads, they're going through the answers. So they know exactly what they think, but they don't know what the other person has to say. So my preamble, first of all, is to say that for me, there is no such thing as truth. And people often come to mediation or come to any professional to try and show that they are right and the other person is wrong. Well, my belief is there is no right or wrong. They're just different. People have different perspectives. And in order to illustrate that, what I would say is that wherever you're sitting, imagine yourself sitting on the other side of the room and describing what is behind you. Now, for me, on this link, you can see that there's a picture. In front of me, there's a door. If I was to ask a person to describe what was in the room who was in front of me, they would say it was a picture, and I would say there was a door. We're not seeing the same things, and we go away and describe the room. Someone else hearing that could say that Joan's not telling the truth. There was a picture in that room. But in actual fact, everybody's telling the truth. It's a matter of what you see, your different experiences and perspective at the time.
Of the same room.
It's happening, yes, of the room and of your life. So when I'm talking to people, I tell them I'm not seeking for a truth. What I want to hear is their particular truth. So it's not a picture as your lovely defined picture behind you. I've got an abstract picture behind me, and I'm expecting a sort of an abstract rather than a defined picture, something a bit hazy.
Yeah.
So they're not there to convince me that they are right, just to say what it was like for them. And people find that a very easy idea to understand.
Yes.
So then I will go on to explain that I'm not going to make them answer these questions because mediation is voluntary. So when I tell them what the questions are, they can choose not to answer them. If one person says they won't, then the other person won't. So it's a very safe place. One person's not going to reveal a lot and the other one take advantage of that or walk away from that. Yeah. So creating an equal environment. If they don't want to do it, that's fine. But I do also say if your mediation becomes difficult, maybe we'll need to go back and do this at some other time. So you're free to do it if you wish or if you don't. Amazingly, 95% of people are really happy to do it. Yeah. Those who do it, I would say 99% would say that was a very useful thing to do, although they're frightened to start with. And I understand that fear because you would say, well, I didn't come here to talk about my emotions. I came here to sort out my problems. Yeah. But actually, my belief is that when families separate or couples separate, it's not a legal problem, it's a family problem or a couple problem. Mm-hmm. Making it legal is creating something that wasn't there before. Sometimes you do have to have recourse to law, but actually within yourself, you have the abilities, most people I would imagine who come to mediation have those abilities to sort things out themselves. They just need to be able to sweep the floor clean and move on in a business-like way. So this is about creating a business-like environment. Yeah. It's done once, it's never done again, but it helps them.
That's it,
yeah. So, shall I tell you the questions now?
Yes, please, yes.
Okay. So the first thing about them is that they're very difficult to answer and very difficult sometimes to listen to the answers. So it's better that people don't interrupt each other, and that when the first person has spoken, when the second person speaks, they don't refer to what the other person has said, because it's about their personal truth. It's about saying the other person was wrong. So the the questions are told in a story form. So I'm going to tell you some stories. Okay. So I would say that I know there's a lever and a left here, and that must in a way be the case, although people may in the end have come to a decision that yes, they wish to leave. There was somebody who made that decision in the first place. Yeah. So what I am saying is I'm wondering who decided this relationship was over and what it was that exactly told them the relationship was over. It may have been that your relationship has been rocky for a long time. Maybe you've separated, got back together. But for one of you, something in particular has happened to make you know that this time the relationship is over. So if you could say exactly what that is. That's for one person. For the other person, I tell them I'm going to give one of my special offers of the day, because the weather is beautiful today. It's not so beautiful outside here, but it's a beautiful day. So I've got a very special offer for them. And what I'm going to do is offer to chop off one of their arms. Now, for me, it doesn't really matter which one. It could be their right or left arm. I'm not awfully good at chopping off arms. I could try to give them an anaesthetic. I'm not sure that I could, but I'll have a go, and I have a chopper and I have a saw. I can just pull it off like a chicken. So we have this idea of something quite painful. And then I say, if I were to say that to you and you thought, as I am saying it to you, if you thought I was serious and I closed my eyes, I guess you'd leave the room. And also, if I leant forward to grab your arm, you would pull it away. Yeah? So what does this mean? So the reason for saying that is, for one of the people, and possibly both people in this room, they have experienced pain which is worse than having your arm chopped off. And had I got the opportunity, which I don't want, to chop someone's arm off, they'd go to hospital and they would receive painkillers and there'd be a new prosthetic arm. So everything could be sorted in a couple of weeks. For someone who has lost someone that they love, the pain is worse and there is nothing to remove that pain. There isn't a new partner and there isn't a painkiller. That will go on, and research has shown that they'll last for about 2 years. So it's important that we acknowledge that someone in this room has been, and it may be both of you in fact, experienced that pain. So if you could speak a little bit about that. So that's the first question. The second question is to do with the emotion involved with what is happening here. And at this point, generally, I don't know who's the lever and the left, because that wouldn't be information that I would have sought. So I say to them, I'm going to give you a ball each. One is a football and one is a rugby ball. So you can imagine the shape of these balls. Now, for the person who decided the relationship was over, I want them to imagine that this is the tip of the rugby ball. And at that point, they started to feel a slight dissatisfaction with the other person, which gradually grew as a rugby ball grows and changes. So it moves from dissatisfaction to irritation, sometimes, then more frequently. And as this rugby ball grows to the centre of it, they're lying awake in bed at night, wondering and worrying about what the effect would be if they were to leave the person. So they anticipate the future, the effect on friends, families, children, any other related people, their finances. And they don't share it. So the person lying next to them is blissfully unaware, maybe fast asleep, and these thoughts are going on. And that may go on for a period of time. And then these thoughts become all consuming. And this is when we get to the widest part of the rugby ball. And at that point, they may pluck up the courage to say to the other person that they wish the relationship to be over, or they do something which indicates that it's over. So at this point, all becomes open knowledge. So they're passing that information across to the other person. And for them, now that that is out, they start this downward journey on the rugby ball. Relief. I'm relieved, I've thought about my past, my future, when I was lying in bed, and I have something planned. So they know where they're going. Yeah. So their emotional state changes, maybe from a great deal of fear, more to anticipation, and sometimes optimism. So they move on their journey down the rugby ball. Now, the football, you can imagine what this does. This is something that you give to the person who's been left. And this doesn't apply to all, because some may suspect, but even I think couples that suspect, it becomes a shock when it actually materialises. So I describe this as a kick from gosh, I don't know who's current now. I was just say Beckham. I don't
Don't ask me. I don't
Beckham's
know.
a tennis player. No, let's say Wayne Rooney. Wayne Rooney, a goal
Yeah, I
kick.
think he still plays.
So, yeah. So you receive that to the centre of your stomach. Now, some people have said to me it passes through them. Others say they turn to stone. Others that they go spinning. But they get a massive rush of emotion, which I'm sure your people who are listening will know what I'm talking about. It's indescribable, and I can't describe it. It would be ingenuous of me to say that I could. But I guess the first thing is shock, then fear, then anger. Big thing I think that people will recognise, although not necessarily have acknowledged in the past, is the massive drop in self-esteem that people have. If somebody, this person who knows me well can't love me anymore, then there's something really wrong with me. Yeah. So I'm now diminished. I'm very small and I'm not important. And I'm as low as I can be. So we have one person who is just stunned and having the reaction they're having, and the other person journeying in the way. So at that point, they may feel it's a mutual point, but actually they're very separate.
Yes,
Understanding
because one is a few steps ahead, always.
Miles, because this has gone weeks, months, years, so it can be a long way. They sometimes will have found somewhere else to live. So the difference can be huge. So from a state of security, everything is drawn away from you. Yeah. So that's the story that I've told. Yeah. The question associated with it is, do you associate with either of those scenarios? And most people will own sometimes one, sometimes both, because they're going through the feelings that they've had. They can see it, they can recognise it. So the question associated with it, to help us move on, is what emotions do you bring to this room now? Because the emotions that you bring, you actually have to put in a suitcase beside you, because we're here to do business. If you cannot recognise those emotions, then you can't know how to control them. But at the same time, of course, they will surface. This is a very difficult place to be. But if you can acknowledge what they are, then you will be able to be businesslike. Yeah. But if you have no idea what those emotions are, they can take control of you.
I guess because also acknowledging what those emotions are, then if they begin to resurface, you can recognize them and realize, oh, okay, I'm getting angry now and I'm going to say something that's not going to be conducive to this whole environment, so I better just... So bringing them out and putting them on the table and putting them away, I think it's actually a pretty good thing to do in mediation. I wish solicitors, could use it as well.
Well, I think the other thing that maybe sometime I'll forget to mention is if I went to pull your arm off, you drag it away.
Yes.
If you're in this state of extreme pain, you actually don't want to lose the other person. Yes. You can consciously hang on to them. That's how you hear about divorces going on for years and years and years, because one person cannot let go. And it's really important to be able to acknowledge that you have let go. Yeah. And if you haven't let go, to acknowledge that too, that a time must come when you do.
But sometimes people will say, oh, no, I'm so done with him. I'm gone. I'm done, and in reality, that's not what we're seeing.
No, but
Maybe they don't know that they are not letting go.
But when we work as professionals, as we do, what we know is what we do in the room is only maybe 10% of it, because they go back to this bed that they lay in, wondering and worrying, and consider what's been said. Yeah. And it's helpful, I think, to understand that there is a reason that somebody acknowledges for you, makes it normal, that people don't want to lose someone that they love. Yes. Just because someone doesn't love you today, when you thought they did.
And it's okay to feel
you can hang on to them, but you have to move through that process yourself at your own time. And that's why readiness for mediation is really important.
Okay, we'll come back, Joan, to part 3 with that topic, readiness for mediation, and what that looks like.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.